Good afternoon, Maricris.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, Maricris, can you tell me about yourself?
Okay, ma'am. I'm Maricris David, 29 years old, single, from Cebu, Nueva Vizcaya, Philippines.
Okay, I have a few questions for you to answer, Maricris, so let's start. Why do
Okay,
you
ma'am.
want to work as a maid?
I want to work as a maid because I want to support my brother in his education and to my better future, ma'am.
Why you choose Malaysia when there is a lot of other country?
I choose Malaysia because it's very near in Philippines, ma'am.
How are you qualified for this job?
I qualified for this job because I'm hardworking, patient, honest, and kind, ma'am.
May I know what your educational level is?
I'm a college level, ma'am, but I graduate vocational.
Vocational graduate? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your recent working experience?
I work as a domestic helper in Oman, ma'am. I serve five members of the family, two adults and three children. And I also work in Kuwait, five members of the family, two adults and three children, ma'am.
Do you have experience of taking care of baby?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And whose baby are you taking care of?
I take care for my nephew, ma'am, and for my before employer, ma'am.
Okay, how about elderly?
I have no experience, but I know how to take care elderly, ma'am.
Do you have any other special skills?
Yes, ma'am. I know how to bake a cake, cupcake, drawing, and decorate, ma'am.
Decorate.
Decoration. Yes, ma'am.
Are you willing to learn new skills?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very willing, ma'am.
Are you willing to work with a family where the mother-in-law or any relatives stay together?
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, are you still working now?
No, ma'am.
Do you know how to cook?
Yes, ma'am.
What sort of food can you cook?
I cook Filipino dish and a simple Arabic dish, ma'am.
Are you aware that you will have to do washing, cleaning, ironing, and cooking?
Yes, ma'am.
From all the house chores that I mentioned to you, which do you like most?
Cleaning and take caring children, ma'am. Cooking also, ma'am.
You are not allowed to use handphone during working hours.
Okay, ma'am.
You are only allowed to use handphone after you finish all the works and when going to bed.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
You are strictly needed to surrender the handphone to your employer in the morning and your employer will return back to you once you're going to bed.
I agree, ma'am.
If ever your employer finds out that you're abusing of using your handphone and it's affected your work performance, your employer will confiscate your handphone and you are not allowed to hold it anymore.
Okay, ma'am.
But instead, your employer will allow you to call to your family 3 times in a month. You only allowed to bring normal phone and you are not allowed to bring smartphone. Are you agreed for the terms and condition?
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Are you agreed to the rules and regulation for the handphone?
Yes, ma'am.
How many years is the contract as you agreed and understands?
2 years contract, ma'am.
Can you describe for us your attitude?
Yes, ma'am. I'm honest, hardworking, patient to the children, ma'am.
Okay. How can you assure to us that you will work hard in Malaysia?
For following my employer rules and regulation, ma'am.
Can you promise not to use the telephone without the permission of your employer?
Yes, ma'am. I promise.
Can you promise not to put on makeup but to dress properly while work?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you promise not to invite friends and relatives without the consent of your employer?
I promise, ma'am.
Can you promise not to ask for advance salary from your employer under any circumstances?
Yes, ma'am, I promise.
Do you really understand of the rules and regulation of the agency?
Yes, ma'am, I understand, ma'am.
Do you pay any placement fee for you to come to Malaysia to work as a maid?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any history of sickness, breast cancer, or any other illness?
No, ma'am.
Do you suffer from any skin diseases, allergy, or physical defect?
No, ma'am.
Have you suffered from any serious illness?
No, ma'am.
Do you smoke?
No.
Have you undergone any operation?
No, ma'am.
Are you medically fit or are you fit to work?
Yes, ma'am, I'm fit to work.
Are you in any medication right now?
No, ma'am.
Are you allergic with any food?
No, ma'am.
Are you preferred to work for the employer of different races?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you preferred to eat the type of food taken or given by your employer?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you afraid of being left alone in the house?
No, ma'am.
Are you afraid of dogs or other pets?
Dog only, ma'am. But I'm willing to take care of.
Can you promise to work according to instruction from your employer?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any family members working here in Malaysia?
I don't have, ma'am.
Okay, Maricris, we have finished our question section. Let's go to case study. I have a case study for you and I want you to answer me truthfully. Upon
Okay,
arrival in Malaysia, Maricris, within 6 months only, if ever one of your family members passed away, what will you do?
I will ask to my employer if she allow me to respect his decision, ma'am.
Okay, so what will you do? What help would you extend to the family members passed away in the Philippines?
I will send my salary, ma'am, to them.
Okay, anyway, tell us about yourself again and why do you want to work in Malaysia as domestic helper?
I'm Maricris David, 29 years old, single, from Cebu, Nueva Vizcaya, Philippines. I want to work in Malaysia because it's very near in Philippines and there is no difficulty for communicate to my family.
If in case your employer is watching you right now, what do you want to tell them?
To my prospective employer in Malaysia, please choose me as your domestic helper. I promise to do my duties and responsibilities as a domestic helper. I promise I will love your family as my own, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Maricris. We will update to your agency if there is any selection made by the employer.
Okay, ma'am.